We are standing on the patio that needs to be demolished. This is what has to go. See if we can make this do.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So I do have a concrete breaker for the mini excavator also that I've never used, but I'm trying this method because if I can turn these into blocks of some kind, they'll be useful on the property. If I can turn these into something useful, then I don't have to haul it off, and I save myself the cost of pavers to build, you know, short little retaining walls, because we're gonna have to do some, you know, tiered stuff out on the property. Well, been at it a lot longer than I hoped, and I may or may not have gotten a block out. Hey, look at that. All right. So the theory works. Where do we go from here? At this point, I've scored kind of every other line with the big blade. It is much slower going. So we're gonna go grab the mini skid steer and see if we can start lifting some of these blocks out and break it at the seams. I said I might want pavers or retaining wall blocks or something out of these things, but I don't really care if they have a broken edge or not. I mean, the good news is it's absolutely working. Is it as effective as I hope? Not exactly. This thing's paying for itself over and over again. I'd say the plan worked. It is taking some sledgehammer hits on the seams to break them because some of the cuts just aren't as deep as I hoped they would be. It's breaking in some weird spots sometimes, I guess where there were cracks or weak spots, but a lot of it is breaking along the edges that we cut. I think this is going okay. I'm gonna give these seams a couple whacks and we're gonna see if we can continue taking up the rest of this patio. Bang! We are doing damage here. Double checking the beam holding up the roof. So, gang, these tools, again, it's stuff paying for itself here. I do wish, and I may need to build some kind of cage that goes around that hydraulic. I've hit it a couple times over time, but you know, it's holding up, but it is very exposed when you're moving big heavy stuff, which is exactly what you want to do with these machines. I mean, that block right there, that little guy, is probably 80 pounds. So it looks like it's moving this stuff effortlessly, even for the smallest machine of its kind that's produced. And still, it's a back saver and a time saver. And on top of that, like, you could rent these things, but having them at my disposal when I have a couple of hours and I can come over and get something done is just calculating not only the economic cost, but the scheduling cost of getting somebody else over here or renting equipment and then maximizing the time with the equipment. Like, having these things just here, try different methods for breaking stuff up, and it's working out very, very well. We got a ways to go, but I mean, this has taken maybe like an hour. The scoring of the blocks definitely seems like it was an advantage. I don't think that was time wasted. I do think these machines might have been able to break this 3 or 4 inch concrete anyway. They're making my life a lot easier. And that pile is gonna get real big. Where my grid got much bigger and I never even tried to make a pass with the bigger blade. This is a lot harder to break up. I'm having to kind of lift it, and it's still cracking mostly at the seams, but there's a little bit more of whacking it with the sledgehammer at the cuts. I mean, but the other stuff was coming up pretty much twice as fast. Between the two machines, something was able to get under there, lift it, and it would eventually just find its weak spot and break along the line. That's not exactly the case up here, but I think I'm just gonna power through. The wet saw would just turn this into more of a mud pit. Like, this is manageable right now, but running those for a few hours, I feel like would be a pretty big mistake. So we're gonna let the machines work and do their muscle thing and see if we can get through the rest of it, but I'm not unimpressed. Holy moly. This absolutely worked. By the time I got back to where I'm standing, I had not done much of the cross cutting. And boy, howdy, that slab just did not want to come apart. It held together. I moved probably an 8x8 section with the mini skid steer, and it still didn't want to give it up. So this was a lot more sledgehammer work than the first half or 3/4 that I used our homemade concrete saw for. So the moral of the story is build, rent, buy. There's tons of them on the market. Lots of places rent them. Harbor Freight sells them, a bunch of different companies, electric, gas, whatever. But scoring it does make the work a lot faster. So even with these big machines, they could kind of lift the concrete, but not enough to break it. So, you know, save your back, save your time. It's a really big deal. I mean, all this could have been done with a sledgehammer or a jackhammer and a shovel. I think I cracked my screen. Yeah, we sure did. That's all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a little crack in the GoPro screen there, collateral damage, but patio demolished. I'm not exactly sure what this was designed for, whether it was just a patio or a parking pad or what. I think it's just a patio, but when I was looking at the place, there was a Jeep YJ parked here, and I was hoping it would stay and they'd leave it with the property. They didn't, so here we are. This is a really big deal because now we can start digging this out to build our foundation. We're gonna use that height as finished floor, so we'll be coming down a good bit, kind of matching the crawl space height. This section of the building will run all the way up, dig in, French drain on the outside. That will allow us to put all the plumbing in our extension in the new crawl space that's actually deep, because certain parts of this house built over 50 years ago did not have the same crawl space depth standards as we have today. I know some of you would recommend a slab on grade, but I don't want to put plumbing in concrete. I just don't. I would rather be able to crawl under the house and fix it, because breaking up concrete is no fun. Every bit of it's expensive. It's expensive to pour, it's expensive to remove, but yeah, success. We have that one bit back there by the fence I still have to break up. That's pretty solid back there, so I think I'll be cutting into that with our machine there, and then we'll give it hell with these big old power tools. I mean, they're the smallest of their kind, but man, are they saving my butt. Worth every penny, every penny. All right, good luck on your projects out there. We'll put these things back in the stable, and we'll see you next time on Between the Sharks.